Welcome to the Create Your Empowered Self podcast. This how-to podcast is focused on empowering you to live your best life by incorporating the principles of the law of attraction, NLP, meditation, and other spiritual teachings. I'm Jeannie Hall, a certified NLP practitioner and creative empowerment coach. Let's get you empowered. Hello and welcome to the Create Your Empowered Self podcast. This is episode 16, Dissatisfaction Cure. Dissatisfaction is a big word for feeling stressed, frazzled, and unfulfilled. It means you've considered your lot in life and found it to be less pleasant than advertised. It ain't a great feeling, folks, I can tell you. And most of us have felt this, if not all of us. Shitty crappy is a good synonym too. So how to cure or avoid that dissatisfaction is what I'm going to be discussing today. And recently in a blog post, and I'll link to it in the show notes, my mentor, Kelly Cooper, used the phrase light, right, easy, and fun. And she was describing how an action feels when it's inspired action rather than just trying to hustle or force our way to getting what we want. And I don't know about you guys, but I hear a lot of people talking about hustling and go getting it and go after it and work hard and keep going until you want to drop dead and some of these crazy things, especially in the world of self-employment and entrepreneurial pursuits and marketing and all that kind of stuff. You'll hear a lot of talk, especially in successful circles, about hustling. And I'm just someone personally, I'm not a big fan of trying to kill myself for a buck, basically. And I'm not against productivity at all, but I already have a day job that requires so much out of me that I'm exhausted on a regular basis. So to me, the idea of then creating a business where I'm required to hustle, that's kind of what I want to get away from. So if you're kind of in my shoes and you're not a huge fan of having to work huge amounts, working 18, 20-hour days and then 80 plus hours a week, if that doesn't appeal to you, then this podcast is probably going to be right up your alley. And what Kelly was describing when she talked about the light, right, easy, and fun way of doing things is how an action feels when it's about inspiration instead of that hustle we were just talking about. And we all want things, and we have every right to want them. That's part of what expands the universe. That's part of why we're all here, is to want things and to pursue them and to create. We're all creators. But many times we will hustle our way through our lives, and we end up with a big heap and plate of dissatisfaction at a certain point. It's just too much. And the thing is, those people I was just talking about who achieve success that way, they believe in the go-go hustle and the don't stop till you drop mentality, and they live their lives that way. They live every day that way, some of them. And you can, and here's the thing, you can do that in your life and get results. It really is a thing that works sometimes, is you work yourself into the ground and you end up with a big pile of money or a bunch of products or whatever it is that you want to create in your life. You can totally do that. But going about life in this manner is, believe it or not, the hard way. It seems easier at first, especially if you haven't done it for very long, because this is what most of us are taught to do. It feels familiar. I mean, how many times have you heard or seen the phrase work hard as an attribute of success? And many people proudly call themselves hard workers. And to call someone else a hard worker is a huge compliment. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't put forth effort toward your dreams, because it is necessary. But again, putting in those crazy hours and trying to maintain that high level of craziness is only sustainable for the short term, because if you do it long term, something's going to happen and it's not going to be good. That's why uninspired action equals dissatisfaction. And so eventually you'll hit a wall. Either your health will decline, or you'll wake up one morning and realize your life is going by so fast that you feel like you're missing it. You don't feel like you're enjoying it. I mean, think about it. If you're putting those kind of hours, 80 plus hours, into something long term, are you enjoying your life at all? And I'm not saying working hard isn't a pleasant experience. If you love what you're doing and you're into it and you're in the zone, it's awesome. The problem is when you do something that doesn't feel that good, that you don't love. And especially if you push yourself to do it. Or maybe you started out in the zone and loving it and all that kind of stuff. It happens a lot with writers. And a lot of my clients are writers. So if you're an author or a writer and you started out writing because you just freaking loved it to begin with, you just got into the zone with writing and you created all these worlds with your words and it was so wonderful, and that's why you started. But then you had deadlines coming up and editors saying it must be in by this time and you're late, and if you don't do this, we're not going to publish you, and yada, yada, blah, blah, blah. When you run into that, you add stress onto that thing that you loved. And suddenly you're now forcing yourself to take action instead of being just inspired to do it. It's not because you feel good and you want to write, it's because you feel like you have to write. That's why I'm not a huge proponent of that whole butt in chair or ass in chair, hands on keyboard philosophy, which tons of writers believe in. And if you're that, more power to you. Go for it. If that works for you and you can push yourself to do it, that's fine. I just feel like life should be more enjoyable than that. And if you take something you love and it turns into this forced, no, I have to do it, I have to get my 2,000, 4,000, 6,000 words a day in, then suddenly it's not that joyful thing that you started. And if you're not doing it for the joy, then eventually you might burn out. So that's what we're trying to avoid. And again, being busy can feel awesome if it makes you happy. And some people are like that. They just like to feel busy. They like to be busy. That makes them feel good. It makes them feel productive. But for a lot of us, happiness does not equal just plain busy. Feeling productive is generally that light and right feeling. But being productive and just being busy are two very different things. So let's say you have a job that either pays you a salary or it pays you by the hour. And usually jobs like this require you to put in a certain amount of time during any given day of the week. And that's why a lot of us try and be self-employed and seek that out, because we get kind of tired of that. But a lot of the world go to jobs every day. And you go to work because of the paycheck. Let's be honest. That's why most of us work. Not all of us, but a lot of us. And because of that, you're required to be at a certain place to work at a certain time. And so once you get there, you also have some tasks to complete. But oftentimes, even if you complete all those tasks in like an hour or two, you're still required to stay at work until your shift is over. That's kind of what your job description is. You agree to work this many hours for this much pay. And this is especially common in jobs where you work with people, like in retail or in the medical field, or maybe a security position like a security guard where you're there to keep an eye on something. And these jobs can be very fulfilling. If you enjoy that kind of work, you can really make it fulfilling. But for some, once they finish their to-do list, they start looking at the time and they start getting anxious to get off work. And granted, there's always something to do at these types of jobs, but some don't enjoy this type of employment because it doesn't feel satisfying. I mean, you can straighten and clean something every time a customer messes up, right? Any of you who've worked retail already know this, or food service, or there's a lot of jobs like this where you wait on people and then you have to clean up their messes. But if you don't actually enjoy cleaning up after people, then eventually you may start feeling deflated by your work rather than energized by it. And maybe that's just a part of your job that you enjoy. You consider it part of the taking care of the customer. And if you think of it that way, then that can help you too. But if every time you turn around, you feel like you're having to pick up a mess that someone left and you're not enjoying it, then that's where the dissatisfaction comes in. And even if your to-do list at your job is endless, sometimes that ends up feeling like busy work. And retail, again, is an industry that is famous for this. They may require you to move things around in the store constantly. So like what I mean by that is they want you to move fixtures and merchandise from one part of the store to another. And that's something that really annoys customers, by the way, especially in grocery areas. So, I mean, don't you hate it when you go to the grocery store and they moved where they keep the peanut butter? You get peanut butter every so often, and the next time you go in, you can't find it because they completely moved what side of the store it's on. It's annoying, right? But if you don't see the point as a worker in all this movement, then it'll start to feel like busy work to you. And busy work, for anyone unfamiliar with the term, is like a teacher giving lots of similar worksheets to students for like the last 10 minutes of class. Because the point of busy work isn't to actually help students actively learn something. It's to keep them occupied until the bell rings so they don't disrupt class. And as a former teacher, I always hated that. Busy work sucks, right? I'm not a fan of busy work. I feel like if you can't actually teach something that's helpful, then it's not a productive use of a student's time, and it's not a productive use of a worker's time either. So if you don't feel like what you do is important, and if you don't feel like it really matters, it's easy for dissatisfaction to settle in. And granted, happiness comes from within, so we can change our mindset about our jobs. No matter what our job is, we can choose to feel happier in the way that we look at our jobs and the tasks that we have to perform. But also at the end of the day, if we don't feel productive or like our work is important, then it's highly unlikely we'll feel like it's light, right, easy, and fun either. So how do we get rid of this dissatisfaction? Well, like I just mentioned, you can alter your mindset, because we get to decide what we think about our situation in any given moment. No matter what the situation is, we choose what we think about it. And we also get to decide how we feel about it. So if you feel like all you ever do is busy work at your job, you can create opportunities to do something meaningful while you're there at work. So, for example, if you work retail or if you work in the medical field, connecting with your customers or your patients can truly help to make your job feel more satisfying and less like a grind. If you're there for them because you know you're truly helping them, you're helping make their day better or more comfortable, then that can be very fulfilling. And remember, our thoughts create our feelings. So if we think thoughts like, I get to help my customer find what they need, or I help them feel better, that's a lot more light that you'll be bringing into your job. Another option is to seek out and find something else that makes you light up inside. So what is something you absolutely love that you could talk about for hours without batting an eyelash? So like I said, most of my clients are authors. So for them, Writing is the thing that brings them this kind of joy. And wherever your joy comes from, see if you can find a way to do more of that joyful thing. It could be, if you're not a writer, it could be a hobby, or it could even, you could build an entire career around it. Some of the most successful people out there, that's exactly what they did. They found what they loved, and over time, and going through inspired action, they created a life and a career out of it. So now they live their dream, basically. They do what they love every single day. And I think a lot of us crave that. We want that in our lives too. And here's the thing, opportunities are endless. They really are. If you have the will, you will find the way. So if you're looking to make whatever you're passionate about a bigger part of your life, the way to get there is to take that inspired action. And how will you know if it's inspired? You will by the way it feels. If it feels, like Kelly says, light, right, easy, and fun, then it's guaranteed to be inspired action. So think of something, if you're not sure what that is for you, just think of something that you've done in your past at any point that you enjoyed so much that hours went by and you didn't even realize it. And later you looked up at the clock or someone told you what time it was and you were shocked. It's like, it's what time? It could be anything. It could be cooking. It could be playing basketball. It could be writing. It could be any number of anything. It could be coloring in a coloring book. Literally anything. Arts and crafts. It could be running. It could be anything at all. It could be just laying around daydreaming. Whatever your joy, wherever your bliss is, then that is it for you. And there's probably more than one thing that you can do that feels like that. So find where that joy is for you. Now, whatever that is that you've done that makes hours pass by in what feels like seconds, imagine that you're doing that thing right now. And think about how that feels. And think about how you might be able to do more of it. So if you're a writer, you might be saying right now, Jeannie, I want to write. I know that I want to write. But between work and kids and life in general, I can't find the time. And I get you. I really do. So this is what I want you to try. I want you to stop a moment and to clear your mind. Be like Luke Skywalker in Star Wars or in Empire Strikes Back, and Yoda says to clear your mind. Do exactly that. Empty your mind of questions, as he says. Then take 3 slow, deep breaths. Take the time to do it. It works. Now, from this calmer state, think about doing what you love to do, whatever it is. Think about how it makes you feel. What expression is on your face right now as you feel yourself doing what you enjoy? And if you're not sure what your expression is, go think about following your bliss while looking in the mirror so you'll know. Look at your face. What expression's on your face? Are you smiling? Do your eyes look wider and brighter? What's your body doing? Does it feel light when you do this? When I think about doing something I love, I react in a very specific way. I grin, and my shoulders kind of come up, and my arms come inside a little bit, and it's like I'm giving myself a half hug. And I don't know why, it's just what my body does when I think about what really makes me happy and when I get excited about something. And something that comes to mind immediately is Disneyland. I went to Disneyland several times as a kid because my family's from California. And speaking of that, have you ever seen that commercial for Disneyland where the kids are in a bed in a hotel room and One of the kids is a little boy who's rolling around and he's all hyper, and his parents ask him why he's not going to sleep, and he says he's too excited to sleep because they're going to Disneyland in the morning. And I love that commercial, probably because I love Disneyland so much. And I actually linked to that commercial from YouTube, so check that out in the show notes. If you haven't seen that commercial, check it out. I love that one. So in the commercial, the little boy is grinning from ear to ear, and his eyes are bright and glittering, and his body is bunched up like he's about to spring at something. This is excitement. He's showing his joy. He's showing his anticipation for the next day. And that's some of the best stuff life has to offer. It's about as far from dissatisfaction as you can get. So think about that feeling and what makes you feel that way. Now take 3 deep breaths again. And without thinking about it, what are you inspired to do right now? Maybe you feel inspired to do more than one thing, or maybe it's just one. If it is more than one, think about each thing in turn and consider how each thing makes you feel. Whichever action feels the lightest, rightest, easiest, and most fun to you, that is your answer. Follow the guidance within you. We all have it. And if you're not hearing or feeling anything right now, no worries. Just start doing something, anything at all, and see how you feel while you're doing it. It could be anything, though of course, I would never advise doing anything unhealthy. So maybe you go start to clean your kitchen, and that feels pretty good to you. If so, keep doing it. But if it feels lousy, go do something else. Try something else and see how that feels. And stick with what feels the best to you, the lightest, the rightest, the easiest, and the most fun. Pay attention to how you feel no matter what you're doing, and try and do this on a regular basis, because awareness is the key to tuning in. It's like a muscle. The more you tune in and listen, the more you'll hear. And you'll get better and better at deciphering how you feel and which way is the way to go. And you'll know when you're experiencing that inspired action. And something that helps me to tune in personally is meditation, especially guided meditation. And what I've done on my website is I've now created a whole page that is nothing but my guided meditations. And right now there's 9 of them as of this date, which is June 2018. So right now there are 9 guided meditations. And what I've done is I've taken away, like these were all podcasts that I've already put out there. But what I did is I took away the intros and the outros and any talking and any warning about driving and all that stuff. I took that off of there, and I just took the essence of the meditation itself. So it's all calm and quiet and music and different and soft voice and stuff like that. So if you like just listening to guided meditations, then I definitely invite you to go check that out. To listen, you can go to creativeempowermentcoach.com and hit the tab that says Guided Meditations. Or if you're using a smartphone, you can go to creativeempowermentcoach.com, look for a symbol that looks like a bunch of horizontal lines, hit it, and you'll see a tab for Guided Meditations, and you can get to it from there. And of course, I will link it in the show notes as well. So you'll be tuned in and doing way more of what you want to do. And dissatisfaction will be nothing but a distant memory. So thanks so much for listening to my podcast today. And as always, I wish you an empowered day, week, month, and year. Bye-bye. Thanks so much for listening to the Create Your Empowered Self podcast. If you've enjoyed this content or found it helpful, please let me know by leaving a review. I upload podcasts every Wednesday and Saturday, so subscribe to receive these regular updates. Now, go out there and live a more empowered life.